This is a follow-up to one of the other questions that you took. I think last time you were on, Father. This comes in from Chance in Sandusky, Ohio. Father Dalimata, I remember you saying that most modern music is trash and that we shouldn't listen to it. I don't know if this is a direct quote, by the way.
What you're listening to is probably trash when it comes to its musical quality.
In your opinion, what is some good music Catholics should listen to?
It's a good question. And I like how you phrased it. You said, in your opinion. So I will share my opinion. I will share my experience with music because this is something I do feel strongly about. And I'll begin with a little anecdote. I just got back from a mission trip in Mexico. And during the mission trip, we had this sort of bucket fireman's brigade chain going. And we were lifting buckets of concrete on top of a roof. So we were pouring concrete on this roof. And it was several hours we did 2 different roofs. So about 3 hours of pretty grueling, just lifting and lifting and lifting, just tons of concrete to get on top of this roof. And while we were there, there was a volunteer. He was a fireman, a retired fireman from Mexico. And he said, oh, we're with all these American kids. Let's put on some fun American pop music and to get the kids moving to work hard. And so he put on this song that I don't think I'd ever heard before. Most of the songs I had, one of them I had. And as we're sitting there, I noticed that several of the young men are sort of singing along. And at one point I asked one of them, I said, how do you know this song? So he's like, oh, Father, this is like a really, really popular song. And I just started listening to the lyrics. People will recognize this song. It's about like we might die, so we might not get tomorrow. Let's do it tonight. Give me everything tonight. You know this song? So and all the guys are just, not all, about half of them are singing. And I looked up when I said, have you ever paid attention to the words? And he looked at me and says, no. And then he listened for about 5 seconds. And then he says, but Father, it's not about the words anyways. I just like the music. And then there was another one, a super famous song. It was more of a rock song. And I looked it up afterwards. I forget the name. But the lyrics were literally exit light, enter night. And it had this voiceover of a parent teaching their child the guardian angel prayer and telling them not to listen to the monsters under their bed. It was a very strange song. And it was like an invocation of darkness to enter into one's experience. And, it had this really powerful rap, like kind of drum line, and it was a really interesting, kind of musically interesting song. And then after that song came on, the kid started listening, and he looked at me at one point and he said, Father, why do all the fun songs have bad lyrics? And then we had this interesting conversation of lyrics, etc. So I don't have time to answer like a full on thing. I would just say the reason I feel strongly about this is pay attention to what you're listening to above all things, because if you just hand the keys to your brain over to the algorithm, then we just know Murphy's Law is such that you're not going to be getting the top 1% of what's best for you, right? Or the top 1% of good music. So let's just not hand over our soul to an algorithm that depends on uncontrolled emotion to continue its existence. So that being said, I thought, well, let me pull up my little Spotify liked songs here. So I thought, I could go through this and sort of like, what do I listen to? And I was like, I've liked a few songs over the years. I don't regularly even have Spotify. I canceled it at one point because I wasn't listening enough. But I have a pretty broad mixture of songs from the Pogues because I'm Irish, to Leonard Cohen because I like old kind of early rock folk music, to kind of weird ensembles like Medieval Babes, who do a great Gaudete Christmas album, but are totally secular and just like medieval music. Holy Grove, which I'm pretty sure is like AI generated Christian blues, but they've got some interesting songs. Declan O'Rourke, who's a modern Irish singer, a couple songs, other more kind of just classic things. So there's all sorts of stuff on here. And I'm like, okay, some of these I pegged because they're indicative of what the world is listening to. And so I want to think about them later. Then some old classic stuff like Ricky Scraggs and Tony Rice, great guitar music. Charlie Crockett singing Trinity River is a great song from down there in Texas. So I would say, I don't want to be too strict in terms of you should listen to this type of music. I would say at least you should be intentional about what you listen to. I grew up not listening to recorded music. I went to a high school where recorded music was forbidden. If we wanted music, we played it and we sang it ourselves. So I have a very strong affinity to folk music, which in my opinion is music that's meant to be sung and not listened to anyway. I think we should sing more music than listen to it. I don't listen to a lot of classical music. I love going to music live. I'm not really a music listener, partially because I love live music so much. And I love playing and singing music so much that I don't really sit around and listen to it. To me, Gregorian chant belongs mostly in the liturgy, so I don't listen to it outside of that. It's sort of like walking around in vestments. I think that would be kind of weird. So I don't really have sort of an answer of, well, if as long as it's written before, the year 1900, then it's safe. I think we can be relatively flexible in terms of occasion and things like that. I just think we should be very intentional in what we listen to, which is not an answer of like, here's a list of safe music, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like that story that you mentioned there. The other day, I was out kayaking in the Gulf, and I was listening to this band, and I started like, I guess I never paid attention to this too much, but I started hearing like there's like lyrics in the background. This is all instrumental music, by the way. And I thought, what are they saying? I wonder what that is. Like, what if it's something bad, I can't tell if this is bad, but it's definitely weird. And it does mention our Lord's name. So I was thinking, I don't know if I should listen to this one anymore. So that's where prudence comes in. I think you're absolutely right, Father, just to kind of be careful with what you listen to, and especially with I know other priests have mentioned too. I think it was Father Alloy, that music has a very unique way of playing with our senses, and it could either make you angry or rise up, or like kind of like rile you up, or it could just calm you down. So there's that other aspect of music that you have to be careful with.
I think that just on that note, there's so much to be thought about. It's not just the lyrics. It's not just the music. It's not even just the intention of the producer. There's so many things that need to be considered here. Off the top of my head, there's more rock-ish bands that I enjoy listening to. The Avett Brothers, the old Avett Brothers music was really good. A friend of mine started a band recently called Smoke and the Poet. We've got really kind of folk rock. There's Scythian, which is a folk, kind of Ukrainian folk-inspired band that does more. So there can be music that does have elements like that, but it's balanced and it's well done. You listen to it judiciously at certain times. There's some music that should just be avoided, I think, entirely. But I don't think we can be too authoritarian in terms of opinion.